Our lesson today is graphing systems of linear inequalities. So in the warm-up, you saw that when you're graphing two lines in the same coordinate plane and you have to shade because of the symbols of a less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, the solution is the overlapping shaded region. So we're going to look at a few examples, graphing systems of linear inequalities. And also I want you to remember, Desmos is always an option. You can graph all of these in Desmos, and Desmos will show you the shaded and overlapping region as well. So our first example. So at the top it says solve for y. Now on some of these I'm going to solve for y, and some of these I might not. It just depends on how they're written. On this one, I have this first example, and I have x is greater than or equal to 2, and then I have y is greater than 3. Well, if you remember back in your notes, especially when we went over standard form, these two lines are special lines. If I am x is equal to 2, then I don't have a y value, which means I'm never going to cross the y-axis. I'm only going to go through the x-axis, and I intersect the x-axis at 2. So I'm going to graph a vertical line going through the x-axis at 2. Now, it's a greater than or equal to, so because of that, it has to be a solid line because the line is part of the solution. So I graph a solid line. And then I have to decide which way am I going to shade. Am I going to shade to the left of the line or to the right of the line? Well, you want all x values greater than 2. So you want everything shaded in this direction. Okay, so what about y is greater than 3? So for this one, we're only going to go through the y-axis, which means we're going to be a horizontal line. And because it's a greater than, then you are going to have a dashed line because the line is not part of the solution. So I go through the y-axis at 3. I'm a dashed line. Because my line is not part of the solution. And so which way am I going to shade? Well, because you want everything greater than 3, you're going to shade above the line. Now remember, your solution is the overlap. So where the two functions overlap, we shade darker, or I like to shade in a different color. So the solution is this section right in here where these two share common points. Now let's take a look at the second example. So notice how these are both already written in slope-intercept form. So for the first line, I have a y-intercept of 2. And I have a negative x, so I've got a slope of negative 1. So that tells me I'm going to go down 1 and to the right 1. I'm going to fill my coordinate plane up with points. I can also go up 1 to the left 1. And because it's a less than symbol, then this has to be a dashed line, which means the line is not part of the solution. So if a point falls on that line, it's not going to be included in the solution. Now, which way do I shade? It's a less than symbol, so I need to shade below the line. Less is below. You can also use a test point if you want to help determine which way to shade. The best test point to use is the point 0, 0. As long as it's a point not on the line, you can use it. 0, 0 is the easiest. So if I plug 0 into y and 0 into x, is 0 less than 2 minus 0? Yes, that's true. Since it's true, you shade the section that's true. You always shade what's true. Okay, so now I graph the next line. So for the next line, I have y is greater than x plus 4. So I have a y-intercept of 4. I'm going to start at 4 on my y-axis. I also have a slope of 1, so I'm going to rise 1, right 1. can also go down one to the left one. And again, it's a greater than, not a greater than or equal to, so I'm going to use a dashed line. The line is not part of the solution. Because it's a greater than symbol, I shade above. So I'm going to shade in this direction. But everything that's darker, or sorry, the overlap is where I'm going to shade darker. So in this section, my overlap is here. Okay, so the next videos you're going to watch some where they're not already written in slope-intercept form, where you have to solve for y. Keep in mind, anytime you are dividing or multiplying by a negative number, you always have to flip your symbol.